Hello Chinese viewers, I'm DS, a psychologist, and welcome to another episode on channel NITT. In this episode, we are going to talk about 10 unspoken observations or 10 unspoken rules at the casino. So in case you are new to this channel, I am DS, I'm a psychologist, I'm an ENTJ, and I came from a gambling family. So since I was 8 years old, I have started to gamble. So I have over 30 years of gambling experience, including gambling at a casino. So all of us may have curiosity about a particular topic. In this case, we're talking about gambling. So all of us may be curious about gambling, but different people may do research in different ways. So as an MBTI type, ENTJs like to do research in a multifold manner. I personally like to go online to search for information, and then I will also couple it with my own observations, and from there I will formulate my own theory. So in this episode, I'm going to list 10 observations I have made from the casino in the Asian context. So if you have not actually been to an Asian casino, you might be very surprised by what I am actually going to say. Before we start, we need to have a disclaimer. All my observations are actually based on the common flaws in the common area of the casino. So personally, I have never been to a prestigious gaming area, and I don't presume that many of you would have. So let's just talk about the common flaws and the common tables. So the first observation on my list may appear to be a bit rude, but it is definitely valid. The lower class play lower games. So at the casino, there are definitely games that are higher class, and there are games that are supposed to be lower class, so to speak. So lower games are easier for anyone to engage in. They also have a lower table minimum. So one such game would be the stick bowl or 3 dice. When you go into a casino, you will observe that all these stick bowl tables, they do not even come with seats. People just stand and play. So at MBS casino, there's no such game called the money wheel, but in certain Asian casinos, there might be such a game called the money wheel. And then again, a money wheel is also regarded as a lower game. Lower games are meant for the lower class. Lower class gamblers are gamblers who do not have enough money. They also may not really understand how a particular more sophisticated game is going to be played. So in that regard, you will hardly see blue-collar workers ever playing at a baccarat table because they cannot afford it. Unspoken rule number 2, you are not welcome at every table. You might be given the eye of contempt if you join a particular table or play at a particular table using your own rules. So there are a lot of unspoken rules at the casino tables. Like for example, blackjack. If you want to join a blackjack table, you must play by the book. So if you play at your whims and fancies, drawing a card at random, deciding to hit at 14 when you're not supposed to, people will give you the stare of contempt. This is especially true if you cause them to lose money. That brings us to point number 3. Why is this the case? This is because Asians are really very serious about gambling. So I've observed in the casino there might be a lot of Caucasians or Westerners. When they gamble, they are in a very chill mood. They generally take gambling as a form of entertainment, but not for Asians and definitely not for Chinese. They play to win. So this is why they do not like the rhythm of the game to be disturbed just because you have an amateurish player join the table. Our fourth point is related to this third point. Most dealers are not educated enough about the game that they play. You might be very surprised when you join a gaming table, let's say for example the Pai Gao table or a Pai Gao poker table or the 3-card poker table. The player may know the payout table better than the banker themselves or the dealer themselves. A lot of the dealers, they do not know their game well, and they seem to be not very interested in the game. Periodically, MBS may introduce some games that are new and novel. So just 2 to 3 months ago, MBS introduced a new roulette game with 4 zeros, but there could be a potential payout of 40 times. So when the gamblers came and approached the dealers and asked them how this game is played, I've been observing these dealers. They do not know how to explain it well at all. But I have been observing the game. I can just explain this superbly well, but not the dealers. So this might really have either got to do with their educational level. They might not have this competence to describe or explain something that is gambling related totally to a person for them to understand, or they are totally not really interested in their work at all. Number 5 on my list, you can tell if a player is an amateur or a seasoned gambler by how they lay their bets, especially on the roulette table. So one of my favorite games at the casino is the roulette. I know the roulette wheel by heart. So when I observe how a player distributes his or her bet on the table, on the layout, I think I know whether this player is going to win or lose. Point number 6 is a little bit strange and controversial, but I am sure I'm correct in this case again, and it refers to table games where you play cards, and in this case, the cards you can really touch. So these games will include Texas poker, 3-card poker, Caribbean start, or in our context we call it the Singapore start poker, and Pai poker. This point is, luck is important, but whether you hit the major jackpot really depends on who is playing alongside you. Many people want to be very scientific about gambling, like, oh, it's just luck. No, it's not fucking luck. It's not. Who plays beside you does matter. Why? Because I've observed how people play games, especially card games. I realized that everybody has a different style of playing card games. The most common style is fanning out. When they hold their 7 cards or 5 cards, they just like to fan the cards out, and then many people do not rearrange. My favorite way of playing is that I hold the cards and I push them out one by one to see the tip of the card. I can identify an ace because it's sharp. I can identify flat cards, which are usually the 3, the 5, the 7, and the jack. And there are round cards, queen, 2, 6, 8, 9. You see, I'm a gambler, I know all these things so well. But many people don't play this, they like to fan out. But I also observe that there are some players that are like me, they don't play conventional. Some like to shuffle the cards before they fan it out. Some like to fan out, put somewhere else and then put back. But actually it's not supposed to in the casino, they will ban it. So given that different players play the game differently, you know when the cards go back into the shuffling machine, it is going to be different. So not only do I play the game different by looking at the cards backwards up instead of fanning. So when I push the card backwards, I will now put it in front. So the order of the cards totally become different. When it goes into the shuffler, of course, it will be different. On top of that, I also do something that some other players also do. They rearrange the card in ascending orders. So let's say I have a pair of 6s. So I will arrange them 6, 6, king, jack, 9. A lot of people, they don't bother at all. They just take it, they see a pair of 6s, and then they just bet. They bet and continue in the game. But I arrange. There are also players who arrange. So this makes a lot of difference because at the end of the day, whatever goes into the shuffler depends on the players. I mean, if you're not a gambler, you wouldn't understand my logic, okay? But I'm assuming that if you're watching this video, you are more intelligent than usual, or you are a gambler. So you will know what I'm talking about. So whether you eventually hit a jackpot by getting a royal flush or a straight flush really depends on who is sitting beside you, because they have a part in playing in getting you that major jackpot. Number 7 is a bit like a superstition, but I have observed games so much that I can tell you safely, do not tip the banker or the dealer until you leave the table. Presume you win a big hand, then you want to give a tip. You shouldn't, because 9 out of 10 times the next game would be a table loss. You know, table win is like the entire table wins. Table loss is like the entire table loses. I have no idea why, regardless of whichever game, roulette, or the card games, when you tip the banker or the dealer, immediately on the next hand is not a good hand for the players. Point number 8 is, gambling is not meant to be a social activity. Fine, you want to laugh along and make merry with the people around you, that's great. But ultimately, gambling should not be a social activity. So when you see Sandy coming, you say, hey, come here, come and sit round here, you know. A lot of players like to do that. It totally spoils the rhythm of the table. I personally do not like that. Point number 9 is, the best way to play any game is to ride the tide. So many players do know this. When they are winning, they chip up. Riding the tide is looking at the state of how the games are going. If you are playing roulette, you see a lot of small numbers, a series of small numbers. Then you should bet more on the small numbers, because the tide is there. And I realized that most of the time the tide keeps coming. Many people are very stubborn. They try to bet against the tide and they keep losing. Point number 10 is the most important, and that is, in the long run, you will always lose. So I think it is logical for you to restrict the amount that you're going to bet and not over bet, and treat this more like an entertainment. If it's lost, then do not chase losses, because it is always stacked against you. So you can win in gambling, especially when you are lucky or you have a lucky streak. But most of the time, I think if you are just going to the casino to win something, what you can do is just to go for the hit and run method or the hit and run strategy. Bet, win, go. In the long run, if you continue betting and betting and betting, most of the time, you will lose in the end, because the odds are definitely stacked against you. Okay, I have yet to talk about the MBTI profile or the psychological profile of gamblers, but I think this is an episode that would be meaningful for many people who are actually casino visitors. If you have enjoyed this video, do give us a like. If you have not already subscribed, do consider subscribing so that we can give you more MBTI and related interesting videos such as this one. Okay, I'm going to sign off now, and I'll see you in our next episode. Bye bye.